Okay, welcome to the running journey. Where to begin? This was a long time coming. We've been waiting a long time to have this episode. So I'm so grateful to have Charlie, my brother, and Simo, Chris Muggy here with me. We are at the airport in Calgary, Edmonton, the day after the Utah St. George last one standing backyard race, which is 102 miles. And I'll start you off with a little secret. We all finished the race. Congrats, boys. But it wasn't easy. A lot of places to chat, a lot of things to chat about. So this episode's a recap episode. So we're going to talk about the race, our emotions. There was a lot of different emotions. How well Charlie did. Anyways, it's our recap episode. So maybe first, right off the bat, and then I'll get into the details. But Charlie, how do you feel?
I feel good.
I feel good.
I mean, it's done.
I'm happy it's done. I'm not too sore, so that's good. How about you?
Simo, how about you?
I feel good mentally and physically, except for my feet. My feet are in a bad spot right now.
Didn't feel good mentally yesterday.
I did not feel good mentally, but we're asking about it right now, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday was a bit of a different story, but right now, I feel pretty good.
So neither of us had ever done anything like this. We'd never done anything close to 100 miles. Simo, your long distance was 26 miles. Charlie, you'd done a couple long training sessions, but nothing longer than a 26-mile race. I had done 100K. I thought this was going to be way easier. And anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I've talked about how easy I thought this race was going to be. It wasn't, obviously. So maybe talk about how maybe the prep the day of. So we got there, 3 o'clock start. You want to talk a bit about just the kind of pre-race stuff, Charlie, real quick?
Sure. Yeah. So I wasn't feeling great. I had a bit of a headache the day before. I had some work stuff to do. It was just a normal day, but we woke up in Vegas.
Yeah, our Airbnb was in Vegas.
Yeah, Airbnb, and so we had to travel there. But everything went smoothly. We wanted to get the optimal spot, and
You guys left at like 7:30 a.m., right, from the Airbnb?
7:45.
7:45 a.m. for...
We had a nice drive with Claude and Annette, and
my parents were there.
and Simo, and yeah,
3 p.m. start to the, the Family Confluence Park in St. George or something? Family Confluence, I think it was called? Something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you
should know.
So now it's 3 o'clock. The race is set up. We got our crew there, Simo. We got Sil, Labby, Diggs, TJ, Claude, and Annette. Unbelievable crew. And we're seeing all these runners. There's about 127 runners that signed up, I think. Or was it more than 130?
Some, yeah.
130? What was your vibe when the anthem was playing and you're like, oh my God, we're doing this?
Oh, to be honest, I just had a lot going on in my head at that point. Like, I wasn't really feeling the energy. I was just mentally preparing myself for a battle, and I was a little nervous, to be honest.
I just wanted to start already. I was like, enough of this. Like, can we just run? I just want to run already. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're off. 6 mile loop, constant loop, same 6 miles over and over and over again, 6 miles every 90 minutes. Start. Charlie, you were definitely the one that struggled the hardest early. So we started in the first 2 loops were in the daylight, would you say?
Yeah, first 2 loops.
Because they're hour and a half loops. So
Yeah, so I was maybe a little warm for the first loop.
I was maybe a little warm for the first loop because I knew it was going to start cooling down. So, but I wasn't. I thought because we were going to go slow that.
Describe slow for the viewers.
It was 14 and a half minutes per mile. We were alternating between walking and running.
Kind of 20 kilometers, something like that. Is that right? 9
Yeah,
kilometers?
somewhere around there. Yeah. And so I thought that it would still kind of feel cool, even at 15 degrees.
Yeah.
But it was actually that first loop, I was probably a little warm.
You think you were overdressed and that didn't help?
That one loop, just
Yeah.
one loop.
First loop.
Yeah, and then I think pretty much good after that. How did you guys find the first loop?
I just wanted to get going. I was so happy to get going, and I checked the Strava. We did what did I say, 11? No, 9 intervals on the first loop. 9 intervals. So that means
So
we
our
walked.
walking pace was good.
Our walking pace was quite good, and we did 9 1-minute walks. We got to lay of the land, right? The course, the first
Yeah,
loop.
yeah, and I think like the walking pace is a lot more easy to focus on, like picking up the pace and keeping the speed up for the first few laps, anyways. And like after that first lap, getting that kind of under our belt and coming in and seeing the crew there, like ready to support us and get us everything we need, was just like, for me, that was like a massive energy boost. Like I was super happy to see those guys, and I'm like, hey, if I can feel like that after every loop, I'm like, that's going to be a good thing. So after that first loop, I felt really good about things.
Nutrition-wise, we're all kind of doing the same thing. We're doing bagels with to start, anyways. We're all kind of doing somewhat real food and trying to get some real food in us so that it's, you know, just real food. They all say real food. So we did, let's say, 2 loops in the light, and then it got dark. Sunset was like at 5:20 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it got dark by the end of the second loop. So now, Charlie, you're the first one who started having struggles. And the irony here, if you don't know yet, is Charlie finished 3rd overall in this race out of a field of 130. Charlie finished 3rd overall. So I'm talking about his struggles. We'll talk about our struggles in a sec here. But you had the first struggles.
Yeah. So, well, even my first 2 laps, I just felt really bloated, and I felt like I could barely run. I didn't feel great. But then the 3rd lap, I started like falling asleep. Like not really falling asleep, but just like my head was like, I had a hard time supporting my head, and my eyes would close.
You kept saying that. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
At like 7 o'clock.
Well, it was but 9 our time,
I know.
right? So I was like 3rd loop, and I'm already like this, like, and then I was like trying to calculate how many loops in the dark we were gonna have to do, and it was like 9.
A lot.
We had to do 9 in
Yeah,
the dark, right?
more than in the light, right? I think.
Yeah, I think we did 9. 3 to 11 were all in the
Sunrise
dark.
wasn't until 7:45.
Like the sun rose on 11 at the end of loop 11.
Yeah.
So there's 9
Yeah,
loops
we had
to
13,
go.
14 hours.
And I was like already falling asleep on the first one, so it didn't start off great. But I think you guys were feeling really good at that point.
I felt good, Simo. You felt good too. Yes. Aside from the bloating of the race, like
Yeah.
the stomach.
Yeah, like that kind of went away after lap 1 and 2. After lap 2, I would say.
Forgot about the Jimmy Johns.
The Jimmy Johns.
That was what, lap 2.
Yeah, like I think after lap 2, I started.
I come out from
going down.
and I see this big Jimmy John sub just sitting on the table, and Simo was like, "I'm gonna have that after lap 2 or after lap 1, I forget."
Yeah. Well, I ate half of it before the race, and it kind of, I think it was good. Like Charlie and I were saying, it was probably good overall. But that first lap, I was feeling pretty sluggish.
Yeah.
But the good news about like feeling sluggish in the first lap is, like, you're not stopping in the first lap,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
kind of fine to get through that, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
that was minor.
Because I ate way too much also, real food, and I felt like my belly was going to explode because I was doing the bagel with the peanut butter, the Nutella, and the bars, and the gels, and I was doing like 140 grams of carbs per loop,
Yeah.
and I just felt so bloated. I
Yeah.
felt so,
But
for the
even,
first 6 loops.
even
5
for
loops.
me, feeling bloated after that first loop because of the Jimmy Johns still made me a bagel with some Nutella on it, and I like pretty much took that down in like 2 bites. It was gone. So I'm like, oh, obviously my body needs some food. So
Yeah.
So, okay, so I want to get back to your struggles now, Charlie. You said you're sleeping, and you kind of went, a couple, I want to say 2 or 3 tough loops. Am I wrong there?
3, 4, 5, 6.
3 loops, 3, 4, 5, 6 were tough.
Were all tough. And
Yeah,
then, and then 7.
That takes you to midnight.
Yes, 7 was I had planned. My original plan was I was going to do a fast loop on loop number 8. But at 7, I was just like holding on. Like at 7, I was like, I need to sleep. So I'm gonna do my fast loop right now, so I can get into sleep. And what happened was, when I did my fast loop, the first 3 miles I was doing it around.
So your fast loop was 10-minute miles?
Well, my first 3 miles were at like 9:15, and then because I was talking
5:30s for kilometers.
I was talking to this other guy, this Mormon, and we had a couple conversations and stuff. So I was with him the whole way, and he was like slowing down to stay with me. And then, so I did the first 3 miles, and then I slowed down a little bit. So it ended up being like a 58-minute loop.
This is at from 12:30 to 1, 12 to 1 a.m. 12 to 1 a.m.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but now that I think about it, so that was loop 7. So I was already 36 miles in. So that's not terrible. I mean,
Well, what do you mean not terrible?
well, I guess it felt kind of hard. That loop felt really hard to do, right? Because it was just way faster than what I'd been doing previously. But then
Yeah, but okay, yeah. You're saying it shouldn't have?
I was, for some reason, I thought it should have been easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, so then I went to the camper and tried to sleep.
The
And
RV. So we had an RV, booked an RV, a
Yeah.
motorhome, parked it a couple hundred meters from the finish line. So the idea was that, one, the crew could stay in there. My parents could sleep in there. We could heat up some food. And also it would give us an opportunity to nap if we wanted to.
Yeah. No, so the other thing about Loop 7 is as soon as I started running at a more decent pace, I kind of woke up. So it was like I kind of solved my problem, not by sleeping, but by just running fast.
Yeah. So on this nap thing, so Simo, you and I had a lot of discussions about whether or not we would take naps, because when he was napping, when he was taking his nap loops, we were running together. That was kind of the first time it was just the two of us, right?
Yeah,
Because Charlie
yeah.
had to go ahead. So we were doing the same pace.
Yeah.
So Charlie went ahead. And I remember you and I were like, should we try this? Should we do this?
Well, it was now or never at that point if we were going to do it, right?
Well, we
Because-
had one more chance after he came back. We could have napped at 4:30, right? So he napped from 1 to 1:30.
Yeah.
Then he napped again from 2:30 to 3.
Yeah, but for me, what I mean by that is that I think if it was any later than that, the energy wouldn't have been there to do an hour loop.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing is, you could have done like an hour 10. Like my second one, I was trying to do that, but for some reason I could only do like an hour 6
Okay.
on the second time.
Okay.
So you're saying the fatigue was setting in, so it's now or never to do a fast loop.
Yeah, like and I don't know, it's just how I felt at the time. I'm like, oof, if I have to do a full loop running the entire time right now, it felt like it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was scared, and I said this in the recap. So those of you that listen to that episode, you've heard me say this already. I was scared of attempting an hour loop. I
Yeah.
was scared that I wouldn't be able to do it. I was scared that it would be hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is easier. I don't
Yeah.
think I need to sleep. I think in hindsight,
It
I
kinda
think
gave
I
me some-
misplayed
It kind
it.
of gave me some confidence.
Well, Charlie,
too.
you came out of those 2 naps. You were a different human being.
Yeah, it kind of gave me some confidence. I don't know if that's what.
No,
it
you,
was.
you were confident, you were fast, you had a bounce in your step, and maybe it's not because of the naps, maybe it's because of something else.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
you were like he was
Yeah,
bouncing.
he was buzzing after that. I
You
would
were
say.
buzzing. It
Yeah.
was noticeably different
Yeah.
because you were struggling before, and then.
But the thing is that the thing I found out in those loops is that if I get sleepy, just run hard for like a couple minutes, and that would wake me up.
So I was never sleepy. That was never something that I experienced.
Yeah. So me,
I
it
was
was.
fatigued, like the headache,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like falling asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you were falling asleep.
Well, it's hard to describe. It's just like it was hard for me to keep my head up, and my eyes would
that's
just
Kangiriku nodding off.
and my eyes would just go like this, and a couple times I would see myself, and I was walking. I'd see myself walk crooked all of a sudden.
So that didn't come close to happening to me. I don't know about you, Simo.
Yeah, it did like throughout the night. I feel like I kind of embraced the night run, but well,
Embraced.
well that was my mindset. I'm like, well, it's beautiful out here. The stars are out. The Christmas lights, like, I don't know. There was a beauty about it that I kind of enjoyed. But then when the sun just wasn't coming up,
Yeah, that's the
and
next
then
part
it
I want to
wasn't,
talk about.
yeah, like, I don't know if I kind
Because
of
Charlie came back. No. This is where I want to go.
Yeah,
So Charlie comes back at 3 a.m. after
Yeah.
having 2 naps,
yeah.
and we
Was
both.
it 3?
Yeah, you napped at 1. You
That
napped
was later.
1:30, and at the end of the lap that finished at 1:30, and at the end of the lap that finished at 3.
Yes.
Early by my
Yeah.
standards, because we still had one more chance to nap.
Yeah.
Because you and I said, why don't we ask Charlie how he's feeling, and if he's feeling awesome, we'll do a fast loop and we'll go for a nap.
Yeah.
Right.
And I looked at you, and you were still half asleep, and that's the loop where you came out and you were late.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a chance to talk to you.
yeah.
So I didn't have my fast shoes on. I didn't have anything ready to do a fast loop. So I was like, I don't need a nap. So I just said no. I don't know what happened to you, but I just said no, don't need a nap. And then I still felt good.
Because I felt like we were I felt like we were in a real groove, and mentally and energy wise, like I was coming into the crew, I had energy to talk
There
to
were no
people.
problems yet, right?
There was
At
no
3 o'clock?
problems. I was feeling good.
2:30?
And I think I remember telling you, I'm like, I feel too good right now. I'm like, I'm kind of scared of this feeling fading away, and I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, so this was halfway into our 24 hours. So
Yeah.
that would have been lap 8.
Lap
Yeah.
8 was my second fast one, and
Yeah, that was your second nap, and that was still my last good loop. That was the last loop where I
yeah,
felt okay.
and I remember you guys were very, very cold. So that I also
After
that was
you
a
got
big
back.
screw up.
Yeah.
That
so
was a
I
big screw up.
on that second fast loop, the purpose of that one was more for me to change my clothes, but I tried to still get a nap in. So I completely changed my clothes, and I was like just so warm after.
Yeah,
And I got to you, and you guys, I could see you guys were
I was shivering.
You guys were freezing,
Yeah.
like, and you guys had talked. You guys, we had a conversation about. Apparently, you guys had talked like half the previous loop about if you guys were going to do a fast one or not. Like you guys were like discussing it.
Yeah,
on the
that's
way.
all we talked about.
That's
That's all we talked about during your nap loops.
So how did that discussion go?
Well, we literally just said, like, can you do it? Do you think you could do a 10-minute? I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
I was scared to try it.
Yeah, I was scared to try it too.
And I knew I would benefit from it, but I was like, I think the way I said it in the podcast is I'm trading off a nap for a hard 10, and I don't think that's a fair trade right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you went. So the other thing is when you guys asked me how it felt.
Yeah.
Is it working?
As long as you have the mic on top. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the mic.
So I kind of at that point I didn't realize how beneficial it had been for me.
Well, you told me I didn't really sleep much.
Yeah, you weren't sure about it yet.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
But after we saw him, we knew it was beneficial.
because I had worked pretty hard, like on those 2 laps,
Yeah.
you know. So I was like, "Oh, did it pay off?" I don't know. I wasn't sure. And then I think 2 or 3 loops later, I kind of realized I had done the right decision.
Oh my god! It was you went from the biggest struggler to winning to almost winning the race.
I was also scared of the logistics of napping. Like, okay, I get there early. Now what? Okay, I gotta go to the RV. I fall asleep. Like, when do I wake up? How do I
Yeah,
plan? Like,
but
I knew that those guys were around.
it's another variable.
And I was
Overhead.
like, if it's not broken, don't fix it situation. That's kind of where I was at. Because
Yeah.
I think the reason why you really wanted to nap is because you were like full on falling asleep.
Yeah,
but you had to.
You needed it.
Yeah, yeah,
and that was an
yeah.
early nap
It was
by
like-
backyard standards.
I actually was like considering it like 2, 3 loops before, but I was like, no, if I make it a few more and then do it, then I'll have at least, you know.
I think like a lesson that I'm taking from this is if you feel you need to nap, you probably should go for one.
Yeah. Well, and then for that problem, like I had talked to my dad before, like so my dad was part of my crew, and I told him like their exact details of what I was gonna do. I was like, okay, I'll be in an hour. Can you please walk me to the RV and
Set
make
the
sure?
alarm for
yeah.
what time did you want to set the alarm for? 2 minutes before?
I told him 5.
5.
Yeah. And the other part of the napping situation, like maybe before the race or at the start of the race, I was like, okay, if I nap, maybe I can get in with 15 minutes to spare, and I could lay down on that cot, that military cot that we had, or whatever we want to call it.
Right next to the. in
Yeah,
our
but it was freezing cold.
Yeah, I don't think that
There's
would have
no
been.
way you wanted to sleep outside.
Yeah, so that just kind of eliminated that.
You talked
factor.
about Claude and Annette being on your team, Charlie, or Simo. Can you explain actually how we set it up with the crew, 6 crew? Just talk real briefly.
Yeah, so we had 6 guys and gals.
One, my mom, one gal, my
Yeah,
mom.
and basically we had 2 assigned to each of us. So basically we were able to communicate with our phones while we were racing, and we were able to let them know in advance what we needed when we came in, and they were there for us every time. Now's the right time. Probably shout
You
out to
mentioned
these
something,
guys.
I think it was yesterday or this morning, you said like, I thought it was a little much at first to have like 6 crew members,
Oh.
but like to assign 2 crew members to each person. That was kind of my call. Did that?
It was an unbelievable call.
Yeah,
I just like the fact that Sil knew exactly what I needed.
Because you're in a
every
tough
time I
spot.
came in-
You want to be able to bond with
Oh.
one person or
And
that.
we've been thanking him ever since the race, and they try to downplay it, but they don't realize like how much
a complete team effort.
how much they helped us. Like
Yeah.
I would show up and I would just tell everybody what I needed.
Yeah, like
and
a
it would just
dictator.
show up on my chair.
Like
Yeah.
a mid-century, I have a mic.
Yeah.
Like a mid Victorian era dictator, and just
I'd,
tell him,
Yeah.
I'd sit on my chair.
take
and
my
I'd be
clothes
like,
off.
Yeah.
Bring me my shoes.
Yeah.
Tie them for me.
Yeah. And just being able to I couldn't imagine if I had to put my own scratch in my or
I can't Phil Gore,
tailwind in
like,
my
he did
in
90 loops by
my
himself.
water bottle. Yeah.
90 hours by himself. Can you imagine how many peanut butter sandwiches he prepped? And how many, just putting the scratch in would have been impossible for me. I couldn't
would have been
figure it out. I couldn't
impossible.
go get water at the thing. Like, oh,
And there was a few times I came in and I couldn't even think about what I wanted to eat, but I knew I had to eat something.
someone would bring
and then
me
all
food.
of a sudden there's food in front of me, and I was like, and then I would devour it like it was my
even if it were not your eggs, right?
Yeah.
Whoever's eggs they
Yeah,
were.
exactly.
We're gonna have to talk about Loop 11.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
But
I'm
we're
getting
not there yet. Yeah.
So I did want to just talk about the crew because they thought maybe they were, because they've been on races before where maybe they have less of a job to do, because Ironman you can't really crew, you're helping a lot, but this was like they worked for 25 hours.
I'm blown away. That was like, after the race I couldn't stop thinking about those guys and your parents, and like I was blown away by the help.
Yeah,
Like,
he
it was
developed a bit
just-
of a bond, right? So I had
Yeah.
Diggs and Labby as my crew, and like when I'm able to eat, when I'm not able to eat. They knew exactly how many calories I've had, and Diggs would say, "You're a little behind in calories. You need to get something in now. Should we jump to 4 scratch?" I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever." So it was like but they were kind of making the calls for me, because you guys get attest to this. It's tough to make decisions, right? At the end, especially
it was very tough.
after not sleeping for a ton.
Yeah, especially like the last couple miles coming in my head, I'd be like, okay, I need to do these 3 things: Advil, charge my watch.
It
This
was
and
so bad that I would come in and like during the whole loop, I would think about one thing I had to do. Let's say take my jacket off. Like I wore the same clothes, same shoes, same pants, same shirt for the entire race up to the last 2 loops. So like I didn't have clothing change. So I had very little to think about, but like the few things I had to think about, take my jacket off. I would think about it all loop, and I'd get there and I'd sit down and I'd forget. And then I'd start the next loop with my jacket.
And I think I kind of forced you to take your jacket off. I'm like, hey, give me your penny or whatever
Yeah,
and then like
that was
take your
so
jacket off,
stupid.
and you said no, and then like, I think like a minute later you
Yeah.
did. It's just you're so tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering because I was more solo a lot. Like I would remember like the first 2 miles I would spend just thinking about
Analyzing.
what am I going to do at the next loop, and then by then it was like ingrained in my head. I knew exactly what I was going to do next.
I was kind of doing that, but like
But you guys were taught like I think
we
maybe-
would talk a ton, and
Yeah.
then sometimes I would, if there were like some heavy talking loops, then I would text the boys and be like, reminder, I need 2 Advil next loop, and I need,
Yeah.
and then they would have that ready.
Yeah,
But
well-
otherwise I would forget.
One of the things I noticed is that sometimes when your pace would change when you'd start telling stories.
Oh, I know. That I've known my whole life.
Yeah.
When I tell stories, I slow down. If I'm biking, if I'm running, whatever, I would always slow down. So like there'd be loops where I needed it bad. I
Yeah.
felt like I needed to tell stories just to pass time.
Yeah.
And there was loops where I thought Simo needed it bad.
Yeah.
So okay, what story could I tell? What story could I tell? And then I just tell story after story. But the problem is my brain went kind of fried, and either I couldn't think of a story, which is absurd because I have like 1,000 stories that I can tell. I told you like 10 today. just
Yeah,
sitting-
the best. Yeah.
And then the other thing is I didn't have the energy to tell you a story. I
Yeah.
was just like,
Like I'm gonna tell you like loops like 3, 4, 5, 6. Like my probably my toughest.
yeah,
like,
you weren't even happy that I was telling stories.
No. I said I remember I told you I appreciate your stories. I was
Oh, I
like,
thought you were chirping me. Like
no,
half chirp.
I wasn't
Yeah, I
chirping.
heard you say that too.
Yeah, no, I was like, yeah, keep the
I
stories
took that
up.
as a joke. Okay, like
Because-
I've
because
heard
those
these
were,
stories
like,
1,000 times.
Because
Like,
those were like the toughest ones.
but for you, Simo, we had. Okay, we'll get to loop 11 here. So, I want to get to the middle of the night because those were
9 and 10.
9 and 10. For me, so 9 would have started at 3 a.m.
Were we
And-
still good at that point?
I was good for loop 8. I checked the summary just now.
Yeah.
I felt great after
Yeah,
during
yeah.
loop 8.
Yeah.
Loop 9 started, and I remember we talked about Charlie went ahead. Charlie was
No, so I did loop 9 with you
with us,
guys.
but you weren't with us.
Not exactly, but I was like after my 2 fast loops, it felt like I needed a recovery loop. That's
But
what
you- I don't remember you being like with us. You were like ahead of us.
I think
all
I
the
was with you guys for
The first-
till the end.
time, till mile 4 at the most.
Yeah, till mile 4, and then at the end, I wanted more time at the end.
Yeah.
So
But those were the 2 mile. Those were the two loops where shit got real quick.
Yeah.
Like it got dark.
Yeah.
There was no conversation, right? Like that loop 9. If we start with that one, from 3 to 4:30 a.m. I think you and I checked the sunrise, and it was 7:45 a.m. For some reason in my head it was 5:30, and I was like 7:45. We have this loop and another loop and another loop
Yeah.
before the sun.
And at that point, I started falling asleep. So on the walks, I started falling asleep, and that was a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it was just so long. I couldn't see the end.
Yeah,
Because I had this hope. I don't know about you guys, but I had this hope that the sun is going to cure everything.
Well, we talked about it for like 4 loops.
Yeah, just when that sun
when-
comes out, it's
yeah.
going to be so
So I
good.
don't know about you guys, but like that's what was like keeping me going. It was like make it to morning, but then sometimes the thoughts would creep. Is this a real thing? Is the sun a real thing? I'm like, is it really going to help me? Like I was questioning it. I don't know if you guys.
I was happy I'd listened to all those podcasts because every one of these backyards, they always talk about
I
it.
was still questioning it.
I was too in a way, but I needed it so bad, like a drug. I needed that reward.
Yeah.
I needed the hope because I was so dark there, Miles.
Plus,
loops.
I had a hard time eating on those loops. Those were like
Yeah.
I couldn't eat
Those are
on
scratch loops
9,
for me
10,
too.
11. Yeah.
So now we're into 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. By far the darkest period. You might have been with us on loop 9, but you weren't on loop 10. You were ahead of us the whole time. One of those ahead.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been those were the darkest periods for you, but
For me,
I had a couple dark periods.
darker than that?
Oh yeah.
Darker than loop 10?
Oh yeah.
for sure.
At the
end.
last 3 loops were dark.
Well,
for
okay,
me.
hold on.
Yeah.
Darkest up until that point.
You were
Yeah.
in really bad pain at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
had-
yeah.
So 9, 10 were tough, and then 13, 14. No, 12, 13, 14. Or 14, really.
So for me, 11 was kind of a turning point. Like just before the sun came up, like it was. I was slowly getting stronger from like after my 2 fast ones. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
after.
But like 11 was kind of a big turning point because I put my Sauconys on and I was like,
Shoe change.
and I felt like I tried running and I was like, oh, I can run.
When you saw Charlie's shoe change, were you like, you didn't do many shoe changes, right?
No, I didn't. I saw his shoe change and I saw how good he felt, and I was super jealous. But the shoes I had on, I couldn't change them at that point. I think those were my go-to because my feet were my feet at that point. And
I had really bad blisters and I could feel them. And I worried that if I take my shoe off and I try to get into Vaporflies and they don't feel good, now what do I do?
yeah,
Am I going to be able to go back to my comfort shoes?
yeah.
So I did the same shoes for 15 loops, 90 miles, same shoes. It's the longest I've ever run in one pair of shoes. But, okay, so dark period, then loop
Like that. Sorry, that dark period. The part that was almost the worst. Like it was the fact that we were like almost just a little bit over halfway, and even if the sun came up, I knew we had a whole day of running still.
Yeah.
Like that to me was the
For
the
some
toughest
reason,
part.
I thought, I was naive. I thought once the sun's up, I'm kind of done because there's only 7 a.m. to noon. It'll go quick, and then noon to 3. Those are free, and then the last loop is free. They're all free, is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just
But then, so yeah, I kind of felt similar, but at the same time, like well, I had started thinking this already before, but I started thinking like, why? Like I know I can do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was like I know I can do this. Do I want to? You know?
Yeah. So I asked myself many times, why on earth am I here right now? What am I doing? Why am I putting myself through this? What's the point, Rob? Who are you trying to impress? What are you?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
Why are you going through misery? So there was a time where I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this, Rob? What's the purpose in you coming out here in the middle of nowhere, torturing yourself? You're not enjoying this. You're counting the steps to the next mile. You're like, what are you doing? You for sure had a
Yeah,
period.
no, it was similar thoughts. It was like, well, like, what am I trying to prove? And like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And
How do you think today, now, it's a day after.
yeah. I feel like that question's still valid, but I felt really good at the end. And actually, the last five, I kind of enjoyed the last 5, 6 loops, which is weird.
Yeah, you were definitely
Me. It was more like at the beginning where
yeah.
it was like that, and I know you guys. It was more at the end, so I'd be curious to see like
Well,
how you guys answer that question.
well, yeah, I was gonna get to that, but let's address it right now. Actually, Simo, we were openly talking about. Well, would you ever do this again? I asked you. I don't know how many times you kept telling me the same answer
Yeah, at the time
during the race. I asked you multiple times.
it was zero chance I was doing
Yeah,
that again.
oh, yeah,
It was
so-
zero. Like there's
so
no way.
I told myself like this is the last time I'm ever doing this.
Yeah, you told yourself it's the last time I ever did
Just
this.
the discomfort in all areas was just so extreme.
The pain, the constant pain,
It-
the
it-
knees, the ankles, like the IT bands were just you would say barking.
the mental discomfort, the fatigue.
It's not like pain. It's not like pain like doing a marathon where you just push yourself, and it's hard to breathe and stuff.
Okay,
And an Ironman where it's just hard to keep going. It's a bit more similar to an Ironman.
it's way more. It's not like a marathon. I agree, because then it's your heart rate. You're just battling
Yeah.
your heart rate.
But but yeah, it's
Let's compare it. Compare it. So it's more like an Ironman for sure.
But an Ironman is nothing compared to like it's different, but it's more like every step hurts.
Because I think we all said a few times, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I've said it. I put it on my Strava. By the way, follow us on Strava if you're not. I'm Rob Tatro. It's Charlie Tatro. Chris Morissette. He's not a host on this show, but he's starting to almost
He's
be
a recurring
he's a recurring guest. And
So at one point
I wrote on it, I'm never doing this again.
At one point,
That's
Chris-
the hardest thing I've ever
Chris
done.
asked me, this light is blinking, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, it's recording, I think.
So at one point, Chris asked me, like, if you compare, and this was in the day sometime,
First day,
second day.
second day.
Chris asked me, like, if you compare this to doing an Ironman, I just laughed and I said, an Ironman is so easy.
Yeah. And Ironman is
You're like this is Iron Man is nothing compared to this. That's
yeah,
what you
no,
say. Yeah.
it's not even close. And I still
And
hold
I felt
that
kind of
opinion.
stupid for like being like saying like do you think this is easier than an Iron Man?
Well, I'm wondering, like, at that point, Chris, did you think, like, this is, like, because you've never done a full Iron, you've done a half Ironman, so were you, like, curious as to, like, how, because it was so hard for you at that point, right? Like,
Yeah.
were you, like, the point of that question, was it, like, to kind of see if we were all kind of suffering too, or?
Well, no, I don't know. I think it was just getting the conversation
Yeah.
started. But
No, it's a
like,
good question. Is this harder than Ironman? And we
yeah.
both laughed, and I said,
Well, and I think the point is, like, now that I've done this, because I plan on doing an Ironman, like,
Oh, we were like-
like nothing's gonna be.
"You set the bar
I'm
so
not
high,
saying, I'm not
Chris."
saying that Ironman's gonna be easy because it's gonna be brutal, but like now that I know what real suffering and real pain feels like,
Yeah,
I can always draw back from this experience.
yeah,
And be like, hey, well, I could be at loop 15 when I'm in the running stage of the Ironman and be like, this feels way better than that.
yeah. There's obviously a recency bias, and you think that what you're doing now is the hardest ever, and you forget a little bit how tough things were. But like, I would do an Ironman next weekend if I absolutely had to, but I would never ever do a 100-miler unless someone had a hostage, or sorry, this race unless like my kids are being held hostage, right?
Well, you could kind of do an easy Ironman too.
That's what I mean.
If
I've
you
done
wa- if
I've
you
done
wanted
2 of them. I've done 2 easy Ironman.
Easy, like, I mean,
Yeah, you just kind of push through and so the hardest thing you've ever done, Charlie?
yes, by far.
Unequivocally, Simo, you almost
Yeah.
died there on the course. So
Yeah, for sure. And
Hard.
but before that, the hardest thing for me was the last 5 miles of Manitoba Marathon. That was
okay,
that
the
was-
wall.
That was I don't necessarily. Yeah, it was more nothing left in my legs.
But that's kind of what it is when
Yeah.
you've never done that many marathons.
Yeah.
It's too many miles.
Yeah,
You haven't done that many, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you've trained a lot, but
yeah.
and you were a fast marathoner. But okay, so now we're kind of into the night. Sunrise is coming up. Charlie is busting every loop after his naps. He's cruising. He's ahead of us. We're not talking finally we get to that. I want to talk about this moment with you, Simo, after mile 4. Like right before the flare there, right at the flare where the light went on.
Oh yeah.
Or the light went off.
Oh yeah.
We were-
loop 11, right?
This is loop 11.
11, yeah.
We were dying for this sunrise to come up. We've been talking about it for like 6 hours.
Where
I remember I was like, sometimes I was with you guys and I wasn't saying anything, but I was listening to you guys. Because you guys were behind me a little bit always, but I was listening to, and for like 3 loops, all you guys talked about was this: what time the
What
sun
time
was,
do you think?
and
Where are we gonna see it? What
and
color?
which direction?
Which direction, Simo? Is it going to be over there? No, it's going to be over there. But which color do you think it's going to be? What's it going to look like? Is it going to take a while to get over the mountains? Is it going to be like, it's just... And then finally, towards the end of loop 12?
Loop 11.
Loop 11, sorry. We're coming down after mile 4 there, after the bridge, and we're going to the flare.
Yeah.
And then usually we'd go to the first flare around that time. We're
Yeah.
still going, but you're like, okay, let's go to the next one. Let's
Yeah.
go to the second flare. They had these flares up to like, so you could see in the dark.
That glowed in the
They were like glowing
which
sticks.
were pretty helpful. I
So
think.
helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we're like, let's go to the further one.
Yeah.
That was the first time we jogged to the further one.
Yeah.
So we jogged to the further one. Because remember, we were doing walk, running. And then right as we get to it,
We got to the light. Well, okay, let's run to the light. And then as we got to the light turned off because it was light enough outside.
sensor
the sensor
turned the light off.
and it was like, it's daylight. It's
It
daylight
was,
now.
it was a fun moment.
It was
I would
like-
imagine that would have been. Like,
I think I gave you a pound or a high
Just
five
think
or
about
something.
the odds of us being at that light at that time.
Yeah.
Like
I
pretty much.
I think I broke in. I had like a shiver down my body. I was like, oh my God, it's
yeah.
finally here. Like it's daylight. We've been talking about it for 6
Yeah.
hours and it's finally here. And then that loop finished easy. And that was the end of my first dark ages, the early dark ages
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Because after that, I got back and I started eating real food. They made oatmeal for me. They made waffles. I was like, after that, I thought I'm in the clear because loop 12 was easy.
Yeah, I want to talk about the break between 11 and 12.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
So I got in and I had put in a message to like, if you can make me some eggs or something for this loop, that'd be amazing. So I get in and there's a big box of eggs, sausage, hash browns, bacon.
Oh my God, that
And-
sounds so good.
And I hadn't been eating much the last few loops, so it was like I just just had a huge smile on my face when I saw it. I was like,
Mom brought you that?
yeah, from the buffet, and I was like, okay, I'll leave some for the other guys, but I ate like half of everything, and it was amazing. I felt like a brand new person.
And then
after that.
Simo, you
and then
were-
the sun came up, and then
Okay, so you were like a few minutes ahead, and Simo, you would typically run the last stretch in
Yeah.
just to gain like 20 seconds or 30
Yeah,
seconds, and
and
I
like-
would walk it in. I wouldn't care about the running. So you were always usually a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah, and like 2 things, like I would run in and like there's a little bit of a distance between crossing the finish line, going to our checkpoint, and like you would think 4 minutes is a decent amount of time. That 4 minutes like flew by. It was
Well,
kind
it's
of
an
like
extra
helter-
1.8 miles you did or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was. And it's like it's not a lot of time. I was not sitting down.
And we
ever
had
to
the
relax.
absolute best spot. We had
We
the
had
best spot.
We had the best spot, the closest.
The best spot on the
yeah.
course.
Yeah, and it just wasn't it wasn't a lot of time to regroup. But I think the funny part of that story with the breakfast is that your mom brought me that breakfast, and like I couldn't think of what to eat on the course. Like I'm like, what am I gonna do here? Like I don't feel like anything, but I know I need to eat. And she brought that breakfast
Do you
over.
remember when I saw you and I said,
Yeah.
there's eggs and you gotta get
Yeah,
it?
I was like, oh, and I went and I just took the plate, and your mom like gave me a fork, and like I started eating with the fork, and it just wasn't like fast enough. I just put the fork down and I just started shoveling eggs and hash browns. And I just started.
It was so good.
I just like it was like.
So
I
the
was
point
like
of
an
this
animal.
story is for me to tell you guys that when I came in a minute after you,
Oh, 'cause it was
my
supposed to
mom's
be for
like,
both of us.
there's eggs. Rob, go there. There's eggs. And I was like, sweet. And I kind of walked over to you and you were just like shoveling the thing in your mouth like this. And like just like, egg crumbles falling on. And you're just like inhaling the food.
And then someone.
And I just looked like, okay, I guess there's no more eggs.
And then that whole loop, I felt so bad. Like in
Oh,
my
no,
head, I'm like, I was like face palming
It's-
the whole time.
It's fine, Simo.
It's just like-
I don't know if I could have eaten it. Well, I don't know.
I thought it looked like it was like a box for all of us. Like I had my own box. Charlie,
Agreed.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Like we each had our own box.
Yeah.
But my boys took care of me there at that loop. I think I switched to oatmeal with maple syrup in it, and it was good. I started real food again because the whole night I went to no food. I couldn't eat, so I was doing scratch and gels. So like you can't do that many loops of just straight sugar, right?
Yeah, there's at one point I switched to I did a couple loops instead. Like remember we were doing bagels at the beginning, and then we all couldn't eat a bagel
At the same time after
Yeah,
loop
yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah, and so at some point I switched to like I was like, give me like 4 granola bars. So I started doing that, but then I was like, I was walking on one of my loops and I was like, oatmeal, and then I sent in a message and I had oatmeal.
It's crazy.
It felt good.
You just put in the chat, and you showed up, and the boys had
Yeah, it was
oatmeal or
amazing,
eggs
yeah.
or whatever we wanted. It was
they were
pretty cool.
Just unbelievable. Those guys.
So you did the eggs. The egg loop was loop.
12.
Yeah, after 11.
Yeah, 12.
So loop 12.
Was the sun was up.
Yes,
was the
7:30.
first
The sun had
yeah.
just gotten up,
Yeah.
and then I was like, I
It
actually
got
thought
hot, eh?
it got
Even the
hot.
first loop, or no, the second
No.
loop,
No, because that was still cold. It was still 0 degrees.
right? Because the condensation.
delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Not
that was
including-
a
not
cold
including
stretch
Freezy
still.
Bend.
No, that was a cold
Freezy
stretch.
Bend, yeah.
Freezy Bend.
Yeah. I would always run Freezy Bend because I was like, I need to warm up.
So loop 12 starts. Charlie, I know you're feeling unbelievable. You're thinking like, oh man, I'm on fire right now. I'm feeling good.
At loop 13, I was like, I'm going to finish this and it's going to suck and it's going to take forever. But I was just to make me, I think there's a couple things I was telling myself. I was like, at that point, it was more like I can do every loop. They're easy. I just
Don't want to do a million of them.
It's just, do I want to do them? And I was like, yeah, I want to do them. And then the other thing was, it's not that I can't. It's I just have to decide to do them, right? But sorry, and then, no, that's the same thing. But what I mean is that
You said that on the plane this morning.
what I mean is that
You are not gonna not finish a loop because you can't finish it.
yeah, exactly.
It's
I
because
knew
you're
I
gonna
was-
choose to quit.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I just have to decide to do each one. And
Yeah.
then the other thing was like,
Which loop was that you're thinking about?
Well, kind of the whole time you were.
oh, well, 12, 13, I started thinking that. And then I started thinking, like, it's going to be long, but it's not that hard, is kind of what I was telling myself to make me feel like I could do it, right?
When I was in a rough spot, I would always just say, like, well, okay, you committed to this, so just finish it. And this is the last time you're going to do this, but, like, quit your whining.
Yeah.
Quit your whining.
Yeah.
Just go out there and just start every loop. Because what I noticed with the loops is next thing you know, you're at mile 1, right? Because
Yeah.
that first mile feels like it goes by fast.
I would agree that first mile did go by fast.
Like right before the hill,
Yeah.
you're already at mile 1. And I would sometimes I'd go to you, Simo, that's a mile already.
Yeah.
And then once you're past the first mile, you start chipping away at that loop, right?
I felt like the third mile felt like it took forever.
The third mile?
For some reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I thought,
Because I guess
well,
the
fourth
half
was fourth and fifth fifth and sixth were the longest.
Yeah.
No?
Definitely.
I'd start running.
Like podcast place like that. In that
Podcast
section,
place there was,
that was rough.
we called it podcast place because it was kind of a quiet spot to record,
Yeah.
out away from the vehicle, away from the traffic. And I didn't want to record early in the loop because then your emotions it was always better to record
Different,
towards the
yeah.
end of the loop.
Yeah.
Why? Because you were happy that it was.
Yeah,
it was
happier that the loop, because I was always like, oh, well, we're almost done this loop. And then as soon as we start the next, every time I would start another loop in my head, this was a little, sometimes not the best thing to do. I kind of always counted that done already, right? So
As soon as you started,
yeah.
yeah, same here. I was like, okay, once I'm done this loop, it's only 30 miles left after this
yeah,
loop.
after this loop, it was always after. And sometimes I'd even go, okay, I'm halfway done this one, 30 miles left, then I'll be starting the next one. And that loop
Oh,
is
and then it's less than a marathon.
yeah, it's less than
So I finish this loop and I do another loop, and it's less than a marathon.
Yeah.
For me, I couldn't think about the miles. I could only think about the loop. As soon as I started thinking about the miles, I started going
Overwhelmed?
darker. I started getting darker and darker. Yeah, way too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of freaking miles, man.
Yeah, so
100
that was what
102
to try to
miles we did.
avoid thinking about that. I would be like, it's gonna be long. You just do one at a time.
Yeah.
What did you guys? I know we're getting off but I want to hammer this point down here. The point of just starting. Just start. Just get up off your chair and start.
Yeah.
Once you start, you don't have a choice. You have to finish the loop, right?
Yeah.
And were you ever like, when you were starting, did you ever have like thoughts like, oh, I don't want to do this?
No.
So me, I kind of did, but then I would just go back to, oh, it's not that hard. Like, you just start walking and then you'll be fine, right?
I had a
tell
little bit of
myself-
anxiety about the first stretch in the course because it was tough to get some runs in. So we were always behind.
Yeah,
So-
because it started off like a little
That
bit
hill,
uphill,
then you
and
can't run in that
and
traffic.
and it's busy. Yeah,
And then you got that bridge and you got the hill next thing you know.
yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
and then the turnaround, and it's like it's kind of there's a lot going on at the start there. But
so every time the first like 6 or 7 loops, we were always behind by the hill. This like Limpy's Lane there.
Behind your target pace, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like, because I was the one who was tracking time, right, for us. So that was a little bit, sometimes I have anxiety about that to like, I didn't want to disappoint you guys. I didn't,
Just like make a math mistake and end up not making a loop just because.
there were so many loops middle of the night where I would come to the sign and I'd look at it and be like, please tell me I didn't make a mistake. And I'd see like 2
Yeah.
a.m. or whatever.
every loop I did check the daytime, like when we were coming in.
But I would
always
still
make sure,
think, what if
yeah.
I made a mistake with the half hour or it's offset or
which,
whatever?
Which is possible because like we're not functioning properly.
No, and but there were many times where I was like, did I screw this up? And okay, no. And every time I'd see the number, I'd be like, oh, okay, I did this loop.
Yeah.
I did this loop. And then I had, so I didn't have like, I don't want to do this when I started. I guess I had it kind of in the middle parts. Why am I here? It wasn't like, I don't want to do this. It was more like, why am I here? What are you trying to prove? Like, you're not some superhero. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
frickin' sit down and relax.
Yeah.
Like, I would have these arguments with myself. You don't need to do this.
Yeah, I think that's pretty natural.
Kind of
And
embarrassing to say now.
For me, I was thinking that with like when my feet started hurting, I'm like, you know, I just like had these thoughts in my head about like how severe it's gonna be and like if it's gonna put me back in my training and like was it worth it? And, like, why-
Okay, I didn't have that.
You know what I mean? Like, is it?
I did
what,
think,
what,
like,
what does this look like? And then yeah,
Yeah, if I would have been hurting more, I would have. So, the last time I did something like this was that Frozen Falcon, and I pulled a chute after 20 miles because I was like, I was worried that I was injuring myself. So
All right.
I pulled the chute. Like I probably could have done way more, but so I would have been okay if I would have been hurting more. I would have probably would have been way easier to actually quit, even if it's like not even a real injury, just like.
Because of 777, I don't want to jeopardize
yeah,
it.
like
or-
it could have been a good excuse for me, is what I'm saying. But I never felt that way this time.
So I had a few moments where I was like, I'm going to jeopardize 777, or I have signed up for 2 ultras. I have one in Phoenix, and I have one, I signed up for Frozen Falcon. And I remember thinking, well, that was a waste of money because I'm 0 chance I'm doing those.
Good training for Frozen Falcon.
Today?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, now I'm like, okay, it's only 8 hours. Like I could do that. But last night or yesterday, or whatever day we are today, yesterday? Was the other race yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't need to do an 8-hour race. What are you, stupid, Rob? I'm not doing this again.
yeah.
So like, ask for a refund if I can. And like now I'm like, it's only 8 hours, Rob. Like relax. Like you're not dead. So I just to try to give you guys, the viewers, a frame of mind reference, like pulling out of races, and that's how I was feeling. So
I just couldn't like I knew that I wouldn't be able to live with the regret, like coming all the way down there and like just like the whole
Yeah, same here. I kept thinking of what Pato said in his in the podcast we had. He was like, it'll suck more to quit than to actually exactly.
Say that again.
It'll suck more to quit than to.
it's
actually,
more painful, right?
Yeah.
Or what did he say?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost of regret is higher than the cost of the
Well,
pain.
so
But,
I-
and then the other thing too is that I had my phone with me and I had lots of like messages from friends and family, and like just like updating
You
each
got
other
this,
with
you're
the
doing
love.
great.
Yeah, and I'm just like I gotta do this. Like I gotta.
So I
finish.
never actually thought, like really thought of quitting. I've never quit a race in my life. I don't think I have a DNF in my life. And like, I always knew I would just grind through, but I was like, fudge, it's gonna suck. Like well, maybe lap 15 there when I sat down. I didn't know if I could keep up with the pace.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to quit.
I would say I never had a real thought of quitting. I mean, in other words, like not a serious thought.
Yeah, me neither.
Like it did come into my mind, but
what would quitting look like? Did you even go there?
No,
No, me neither. Like I would tell mom and dad to go tell the guy that I'm out. Like I didn't have any of those thoughts.
Not even close. Yeah.
But I did. Well, I had a worry on, and we'll get to these loops here, where I was like, I've progressively it's gotten really hard to run 14-minute miles over the last 3 loops. What if I can't do 14-minute miles?
Yeah, that's kind of where
I
I
thought
was
about
in
that.
The last few loops. Yeah.
Like that came into my mind. But I'm not going to quit. But if I actually can't do it, that would suck.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to have to sprint the last mile to make it in time.
Right.
Okay, so we'll get to the morning.
Loop 12 or 13 is one of those loops where my Garmin died. So I did those a couple just by feel there.
Yeah, you were miles ahead of us. You were running 9-minute miles.
I was like, just run when you feel. I did 2 loops where I just ran when I felt like it.
Well, no, what you would do is you would run when we caught up to you.
Is that what I was doing?
That's what you were doing. And then when we caught up to you, you would go ahead.
Oh, really? I thought you guys were running, and I was like, I wanted to...
No, so you would run, and then you'd stop at a random point, and Simo and I would run, catch up to you, and then you'd run a bit again, or you would walk faster than us, so the gap would grow. And then we could only run to you, because we couldn't... Eventually, we stopped running. Like, we stopped trying to catch up to him, right?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't.
Yeah, we just had to do our own.
Yeah.
Our own.
Yeah, okay.
You were... But
I was expecting, like, what I was doing was that my plan was like, okay, I would... For me, it felt more natural to run, like, it felt easier to run at, like, 9:15, 9:30 pace.
Yeah, we couldn't do that.
And you guys were much slower, like 11 when you guys were running?
No, well, I remember when we hit, what did we hit, 10:30 one time? And we're like, hey, that was good. That was good.
Yeah,
10,
so
10:30
you had some fears about not finishing a loop there. And we're like, Simo, like we have 2 choices. We either start walking at 16 minutes per mile, or we start running at like 10:30s. And you're like, let's do 10:30s. Let's run at 10:30s.
Yeah.
Let's try that for a bit. It was like a big motivational pep talk that Simo gave me to try to run 10:30s. And we said, yeah, let's do it. And we did it for like 2 loops, I think.
Yeah.
But like, that's how hard that was for us. Like,
It was hard.
Oh, yeah.
and we ended up noticing we were jogging way less.
Yeah.
We were walking way less.
Yeah.
Because like you do way more mileage
We
at
were able to
10:30.
make up a lot more ground.
All right, you're running at 10:30 versus 12:30. We were jogging at some spots.
Yeah.
So the math at
Not only were we jogging slow, we were walking slow.
we were
It
doing
was a bad
17:30s for walking and 12:30s for running.
I think my walking slowed down quite a bit at the end, too.
Yeah. And we didn't even notice that. It just happened over time that we started walking slower and slower and slower and running. They were both progressively worse.
Yeah, like for me, like my hip flexors too, like they were just on fire. And like, so every time I picked up my foot, my feet were on fire too, but every time I picked up my leg, my hip flexor was like just screaming at me. So for both, it just
So our first loop
wouldn't end.
Our first loop, we walked 9 times 1 minute, plus or minus a few seconds, in 90 minutes. So once every 10 minutes. Our last loop, we walked 39 times, Simo.
Yeah.
39
So
times.
from 9 to 39.
9 to 39.
Wow.
You had mentioned that in all our trainings runs, you had kind of called that would happen.
I did say that would happen.
Yeah.
I said we're gonna start walking slower. And we were kind of seeing it in our training.
Yeah, maybe.
But this was like extremely real. Because remember the last loop there, loop 16, and then eventually I went hard the last 2 miles. But we were running way more than walking.
Yeah.
We were doing more running because it was like a 10-second break. We're running again.
Yeah.
10-second break. We're running again.
Yeah.
Because we're running 13-minute miles.
And we were trying to run for longer just to like play. We're just playing catch up the whole time.
The whole time. We were always like behind and we're just trying to catch up and just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Which that's what scared me after loop, like, I think it was 14 where I told my dad, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Yeah. And then he snapped. He's like, no, you're going to make it. I wasn't trying to say I was going to quit, to be clear. I was worried about the pace.
Yeah.
Because like I was slowing down quite a bit.
See, when I got to 12, 13, I started being like kind of in a really good mood.
Yeah, you were.
And I was like just enjoying it. Like it was weird because I guess it's just like I knew I was going to do it at that point, and it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't that hard anymore. And
Yeah, we peaked too early.
We peaked way too early. I would have rather had that trajectory for sure. Yeah, we peaked too early, and then, but I mean, I got out of the rut, the dark era, the first dark era, and then I rallied for 2-3 loops. Felt great when the sun came up,
Yeah.
and then I crashed again.
Yeah.
Because I thought about this wall thing, and I thought like
I crashed again too. Same. We crashed the same
we were
time.
kind of on the exact same.
So I
wavelength.
remember after loop 13, which would have been 4 more after, right? So 24.
Yeah.
I remember I was thinking like, this is done in my head. I was like, it's already done. And I tried to make that joke, and you're like, you were like, yeah. I said, like, I think the exact words I said, hey, we're done, 24 miles. Because for me, it felt like that's how I felt.
And I wasn't happy.
You're like, oh, no.
I probably wasn't happy that like you were feeling so good and like bragging about it, kind of like.
Sorry, yeah, I guess. Sorry. I was
No, just because we're brothers.
I was in a good mood, and
No, I knew you were in a good mood, and I knew you were crushing it, and that's one of the things where, how come he's crushing it and I'm not? And I was like, I've done this before, and I was like upset about that, right? Which makes no sense. Whatever, right? It could be, but so that was something that I was like I was happy for you that you were going to medal and you're going to finish top 3 or whatever. But I wanted to win. I wanted to finish top 3.
Oh yeah, we thought at that point like you were gonna win it.
I thought you were going to win.
Well, at 13, I was starting to think I had a chance.
You looked so good.
Yeah.
But I knew there was other good guys there, so I knew it depended on how good the other guys were there. But I was like, if there's any chance, I'm gonna try for it, you know.
Yeah, and
I
I
was already like planning it out. Like I was in last loop mode already at like 13. It was all about the last loop.
Yeah, I was like survive another loop.
Yeah.
We were surviving, and I even said, you said that early. You said I'm not doing the last loop. You said like I won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like
But you mean like race it?
race
yeah,
it.
I know. Yeah, I was like,
And
just
then-
finish it.
I
You
just
were
needed to finish.
You said it pretty early, and then like a loop later, probably around 13, 14, I was like, I don't think I can do it either. Like I just want to finish.
Yeah.
I said that right out loud. You and I were talking about just finishing.
I was saying that at loop 4. I was like, I'm just gonna finish the last loop. But then at like 13, I was like, man, I can run. So yeah.
And then I changed my shoes at lap 16. I crushed some Red Bull, and lap 16 went really well for me, really well. And I was like, okay, I didn't come here to not run, so I finished strong.
Lap 16 was like ridiculously easy for me. I mean, it's I don't know. I did a Red Bull. I took Advil for the first time.
Did it kick in? Did it help?
I don't know.
Oh, if you felt great, then it did.
Well, but I also put my Alpha Flies on.
Yeah, you
And
got all of them.
Immediately, I was like, I can run 6 million miles for like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was feeling good, and that lap 16 just went by so quick. I did it in an hour 12, but like walking half of it and doing strides, and oh man, I was so excited at that point. But then I was like, oh man, it was like I was excited, but when I was talking to you guys, I could tell you were struggling.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, let's talk about you, Simo, and those tough loops there, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, those were awful, to be honest. Those
Probably the
were-
worst I've ever seen mentally and physically a guy in a race I've ever seen in my life. You were Strugglesville.
Yeah, it was bad.
And I did
times.
every stride next to you there, so.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you being there to support me through that. Like that was.
In a
That
way, it was
was a
helping me.
lot.
In a way, it was helping because, like, wow, at least I'm not that bad.
Yeah, it was just like extreme pain. The Advil wasn't working anymore, and it was just beginning to get to be too much. It was a lot. Yeah, it was just like it was a constant mental battle of me playing games with myself, of saying like I can't quit. Like I can't. Like I never wanted to quit. Like it's not something that I thought about, but I think it's just natural.
I was worried you wouldn't make the time.
Yeah.
I was worried we'd both not make the time.
Yeah.
Quick interjet. What time do you catch your flight?
8:50 flight. We have an hour and a half.
Oh, I thought it was 8:20.
No, I got-
8:20
It got push mark.
okay, sorry.
Yeah. It was like I just had to constantly make a decision. Like I got to keep going. Like, yeah, like I just had so many things in my, I had so many reasons to keep going. Like,
I never had a doubt in you, Simo, but you looked like you were in pain. But I was like, he's gonna kill himself to do this. Like,
I said before I left, I think I told a couple of my friends that I would kill myself to finish.
Yeah, I actually thought you might not finish, but again, not because you'd quit, but because you wouldn't be able to keep the speed up.
Yeah.
And I also thought I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But you rallied so hard, man. And then every time we'd start a loop, it was almost like, this loop we're going to finish.
I don't know. I don't know. For me, I knew I was going to get it done. I did. I knew it. There was no part of me that said I can't do it. It was just the quitting part that I had to fight. When do I pull, like, how much is too much here?
yeah.
Like that was it for me.
Yeah, am I going to do some damage?
Yeah.
But that's almost like quitting, right? When you start thinking about reasons why you can quit, right? That's like, I know that you were very, very, very injured, but you know, a blister can turn into
But
some.
that's the thing. It's such a fine line.
I trust me, I know.
Between that and because if you're injured, you should quit. You know. Like,
I get it. I've done a lot of races where I've gone through this decision process, and like my run across Manitoba, I had blisters and I wanted to quit. And blisters.
but blisters don't count, right?
They don't count. Blisters are not a real injury. So, I mean, they suck, but they don't count. But anyways, Seymour, do you want to touch anything more loops around the dark spot there? Otherwise, I'll go to the loop 17.
Yeah, like I think it's just still early. Not really. I'm still not thinking clearly, to be honest. Like I feel
Right now, you mean?
Yeah, like I don't feel sharp.
Yeah.
And I think
How did you guys sleep
I think
last night?
after a week of reflecting, or maybe even a little longer, I think I'll probably have some more thoughts about it. But those last 3-4 laps were terrible. Were just really bad.
I think we definitely always have a recency bias when you do races, right? It's always like, that was the hardest, that was the best I've ever done, that was the coolest race I've ever done. I feel like this one is real. Or, like, I feel like it's real.
What's real? Like,
The how hard this was.
yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah, because I do 2 Ironman tomorrow. Like before
Yeah, like my half
no.
Ironman was really hard.
I don't want to chirp your half Ironman, Simo, but
Yeah,
it's a different planet.
That's
than
a different.
this.
That's a different planet. Yeah, especially. Yeah, I mean,
Like, think if you had to
I
go do a half
I
Ironman
can't
tomorrow.
even imagine saying that. It sounds so ridiculous that that's not on the same planet.
It's not though. Like, this is, and I know people do 300 milers, and they would laugh at us for saying that 100 miler is
Right,
hard. But for us
exactly.
right now, a half Ironman is not on the same planet as a 100 miler.
No.
And I'm sure Phil Gore would say you guys are wimps.
Yeah.
Struggling through your first 24 hour there. Maybe he'd be like, "Oh, nice work, mate." I don't know, but okay. I want to finish this race, then I want to talk about how you feel after and all this. So, Loop 17 is coming around. Simo and I, we know that Charlie's going to go bust it. We know he's going to go. I talked to you after Loop 16, Charlie, and I felt good there because I had Red Bull, and I was like, you know what? I had told you.
I remember you. You told me.
I did 2 12-minute
I'm
miles.
feeling good. I think I can do like a 70-minute
72, I said.
I thought you said 70.
Oh, maybe I said 70. I was thinking 12-minute miles.
Yeah, I can do like a 70-minute loop. I was like,
You're like, okay, I want to do 45, but okay, good.
no,
for
I
you.
didn't say anything, and then you asked me. I think.
Yeah, I said, I came in and after I did the Red Bull, I started feeling good. The shoes, I started feeling good. And now it's like, okay, this is the last loop, Rob. So you're going to finish. You're going to do well. The Red Bull helped a ton. I didn't do any caffeine for the whole, I didn't do coffee. I didn't do anything. I don't drink caffeine. So for me, it was like, it really was a drug. Like I felt it was like coursing through my veins. And I said, Simo, do you mind? I'll go do the last 2 miles by myself here. That was the first time we had left each other in a long time. He
Yeah.
said, go.
Lap 16, you mean?
Lap 16.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if I could run.
Yeah.
So I did the last 2 miles and I did 12-minute miles.
Yeah.
And it felt tough, but doable. And I came in and I felt so good. I was like, I think I can do 70 might have been. Yeah, 70 would be a little faster than that because it's a race. And I was pumped, right? I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, you were
I was
pumped,
like, I think I can do 72. I knew you'd do way better than that. But you were like, I think I'm going to do 45. Oh, no, Mom told me that. Or
No,
who told
you
me?
Asked me.
I asked you.
And I said, I think
No.
maybe 45, but like, I was like, it's like who knows, because like it's hard to tell because you might be able to do more than you think, right? So that was 45 was like my aggressive.
Okay.
Like I was really thinking a bit higher, but I was like, you never know, maybe a 45, you know.
Yeah. Did you do any like 7 minute, 8 minute miles on loop?
I was when I was doing my
Loop 16?
loop 16. I was doing like I would do like a hard 2 minutes, and I was hitting like 6:45
Okay.
or 7 whatever for those 2 minutes.
Oh, I forgot to tell one piece of the story real quick. I forgot about mile 14 there when I was at my, or 13, when I was at my, the second dark ages for me, when I was like, when I told, oh, maybe I did tell that already. My mind is, when Claude gave me a hard time,
Yeah.
my dad, I told him, he just came up to me. I was sitting down like this and I was just like miserable. And like they were trying to give me food or whatever. And I was just like, I didn't want anything. I just didn't want to talk to anyone. And he goes, oh, you're just about done. You're going to crush that last lap. You're going to go really fast. And I said something like, I don't even know if I could finish or something like that. And then he's like, hey, what do you mean? Like, no, I could. And he like gave me a speech, my dad. Like,
Oh yeah,
like don't be a wimp kind of speech. Like get up off, like go out there. And it's kind of exactly what I needed. Like I know my dad, like not many people could pull that.
But honestly, like that's what you need sometimes.
I wish, like the one thing I could say about my crew,
sometimes they're too nice. Yeah.
they were too nice.
Yeah,
Like it's really weird for them because I'm their boss also.
Yeah.
So it's tough for them to tell their boss to quit being a wimp and go out
That's
and run
what I
another
love,
60
that's
miles.
what I love about Claude sometimes. You'll just
Yeah.
like,
Tell
But
it
I
how
mean-
is it- tell it how it is.
no, he's done these hard things in the past, and he knows kind of the feeling of
You don't want to.
that you're sometimes you'll talk to yourself down or whatever, that you just need to be, you need to shut that person out of your mind, right? So you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the negative Nelly or whatever in your
negative
mind.
Nelly that's in your mind. It just
Like, I
needs
feel
to
like-
get, to get
I feel like if you would have started talking quitting, I would have had the balls to tell you, no,
Yeah.
that's not happening. You weren't there.
Yeah.
You weren't starting to talk about quitting.
Yeah, I don't think I talked about it at all.
No, you didn't
really.
at all. But I'm just saying that's how close I felt with you, and that's
Yeah.
kind of, and I'm saying that my dad obviously is like that with us.
Yeah.
He wasn't letting me quit.
Oh yeah, like if you would have brought it up, I would have told you to shut that down. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just kind of mentioned it in passing. I hope I can finish. I think I said I hope I can finish,
Yeah.
yeah.
and he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, relax. Hey, like I was like, I don't need this. And then I left. And I was like, you're right, Claude. I did need to hear that I'm a wimp for thinking of quitting. Anyways, so last loop you went out. Talk to me about. So we had already said, I'm going to try to do what I can. I wanted to kind of do I was thinking 70 minutes was my goal, and maybe I could do 70, around 70 was my 70, 75.
Yeah, and I said go for it. I said we didn't come here for the first
Yeah.
16 loops.
Yeah, you're like, right. And I knew at that point that you were going to finish. Like I wasn't worried. I wanted someone to go with you.
Yeah.
So TJ went with you. Did he run that or did he
Yeah,
bike that?
he ran that with me.
Okay.
So a lot of PRs.
A lot of PRs. Well, no,
Yeah.
TJ's done a half marathon.
Okay. Oh, wow.
But Labby did the most number of
Labby did
miles.
20K or something.
No, I think he did more than that.
24K.
No, more than that. He
Labby,
did,
how many miles?
so it's like
18
almost
miles.
30K.
He did 18 miles.
Yeah, 30K almost. And then us three PRs.
Yeah.
Although, what was your line, Simo? Fastest mile was 12 minutes or something? No, what was it? 10
My
minutes?
fastest mile was 12:22.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You did 100 miles in your fast. It's impressive.
It
I don't
was-
know what
it-
my
it-
fastest
It was
mile.
in the back half of the race though.
It would be like a time where we were behind and we had to catch up, and
Yeah.
right, it would almost have to be.
Yeah.
So Charlie, tell me.
Did your kind of did it feel slightly easier for a few loops when the sun came up? Like
Yeah, I talked about that. I
Yeah.
said I felt like
Like-
I was on.
yeah.
I completely got out of my
Yeah,
darkness.
yeah.
I was
Completely.
really excited to get my warm clothes off because I was bulky. I had lots of layers on, and I was
That's
just so
one
tired.
thing-
So wet.
I was so tired of being cold.
One
and
thing
then-
I blew, I just completely blew, was the layering and the communication with my team. Because all of a sudden I'd be starting a loop in jacket or like I was cold. Well, I knew it was gonna get cold. Like I knew the lap before that the next lap is, and I
feel
forget.
that, like that's one of the things that I did really well is like I pre-planned.
But I also had pre-planned it.
Yeah. But I would always like focus on like, am I too warm, too cold right now? What do I need to do to get to the right temperature for the next loop? You know.
And it's arguably because I had like 2 to 3 minutes between loops. So by the time I like went to see Diggs and Sil, they'd tell me
I
a
think
story.
that's a big part of it.
And now I'm like, oh, I'm going again. And I forgot to take my jacket off.
Yeah.
And I was so worried about the rule that I had read about real backyards where you can't give someone You can't be supported on the race. They didn't give a shit
Yeah,
at
they
this
didn't
race.
care, yeah.
Because Labby would come, he's like, I'll take your jacket. Just give me your jacket. I was
Yeah.
like, no, that would be supporting.
Yeah.
So I was so worried about that rule, but like I should have just given him my. One time I tied it around my waist a few times. Like,
Yeah.
anyways, that's a minor side story. But lap 17, Charlie, we see you bust out of the gate. I passed you, and you were right with the lead pack.
Yeah, so for the about till that turnaround, which was how far was the turnaround?
When I passed you,
Well, the first turnaround.
0.3 miles maybe.
Yeah, so at 0.3 miles, I was right behind the leader, and I was in third place. So, but before that, up the hill, there's that uphill, and then I don't know what pace they were going, but it was definitely low sixes
Up the hill.
up the hill and through that.
I saw you guys
and
both.
I was following them, and then they chilled out a bit for about a couple miles, or sorry, not a couple miles, couple 100 meters, and they chilled out a bit. And I was okay. So before the loop, my strategy was
Okay, so for the viewers, one sec. For the viewers, this race, if you haven't caught the other episodes, the last loop decides the winner. So there are 130 some people that started. Everyone who finishes gets a 100-mile buckle, but the winner of the race is the winner of the last loop, the fastest time for the last loop. So, and second and third and whatever.
So I didn't really have any goals, but I was like, it would be nice to have a podium or even win the race, like if it's if it's feasible, like if it's. So I was like, my strategy was I'll stay with the front, and if it's reasonable, I'll try to stay with the front as long as possible. If not, then I'll
keep them within sight.
Yeah. If not, I'll just run my race, right? So at the beginning, guns blazing, right? The guy that went out guns blazing, like not even a quarter mile in, he was like the rabbit. He like completely faded.
Oh.
Two guys actually faded completely.
Mm.
So they finished like fifth and sixth.
Not even like
So you're under the impression you're like, I got like a few guys I got to beat here.
Yeah. So, but those two guys faded. But the guy then, so I was in second place at that point.
There was that other guy way ahead of you.
When we turned the corner, I saw him. I was like, "Oh man, this guy's fast." So I tried to stay with him all the way down the hill, and I was close.
After mile one there, down after Limpy's Lane there?
Well, after you do the turnaround,
Yeah.
and you go down up to the tunnel, so it's downhill.
Oh, just 0.3 early, first mile.
Yeah, very early. So I was like staying with him for a bit, and then we go under the tunnel and we start going uphill, and I just see him pick up another gear
Before the bridge.
Yeah, I see him pick up another gear. I was like, okay, well, I'm not catching him because he was fast.
And he looked stride. He had a confidence.
He knew how to
right?
run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one guy I was like, I don't think Charlie's beating that guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Yeah. So then I was in second, but then I got passed just under the bridge by another guy. Not like he didn't blow by me, but I got passed. So then I stayed with that guy for a while, and then we went back and forth. So I passed him again at like mile 2, and then he passed me at just before mile 3 again.
The halfway point.
Because so what happened was my first 2 miles were pretty quick, like 7:15 pace, about after 2 miles.
50 or 15?
15, and I was like, this is really hard. I don't think I can keep going like this for 6 miles.
That is very fast. To put that in perspective, guys, like Simo, 7:15s. Could you imagine doing 7:15s
But
after doing
I was just going on instinct there at that point, right? And I was like, I need to slow down a little bit. So I was like, and I looked back and I was like, I think I got a gap for 4th place, right? So I was like, okay, well, at least get a podium, So I slowed down to, in my head, I was like, I'll slow down to like 8-minute miles. But it ended up being like every time I checked my watch, it was 7:50, 7:55, and that felt manageable. And so that guy that was in second place started getting a gap on me a little bit for miles 3 to about 4.5.
just past Boats 2.0
Yeah.
to...
Yeah, boats 2.0. So to about mile 4.5, he had a pretty big gap. But the thing is, that bridge where you climb that bridge, I checked back at that point.
Mile 4?
Yeah, when you climb the bridge,
Yeah.
I checked back and I saw the guy that was in 4th was It
Because
looked
there's
like,
a long straightaway
yeah,
there.
it looked like he was at least 30, 40 seconds behind. So I was like, okay, as long as I keep running, I probably got the podium.
Yeah, he's not going to make up 40
Yeah,
seconds in 2
so
miles.
that guy was still gaining on me, the guy that was second. And then at some point at like 4.5, I like picked up my pace again a little bit because I saw that he had slowed down a little bit, and I slowly caught up to him at 4.5, and I was basically like 5 feet behind him from 4.5 to 5.5, and then I was like, man, you know what? Maybe I can challenge.
Did he know you were there
He knew I was there. Yeah, yeah.
doing the shoulder checks?
No, we were talking the whole time because
Okay.
we were kind of friendly because it was like we've just gone through 100 miles together.
Yeah,
like whoever
yeah.
wins this, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
It's amazing you had the energy to even talk to anybody.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when he passed me, we talked, and then at the end, I pushed him a little bit, and then about half a mile, I was like, I can't keep this, I can't sustain this. So
The Holiday Inn sign?
so I slowed down.
Oh.
I slowed down by about 5 to 10 seconds a mile, and then he just turned on the afterburners for the last half mile, but finished third, and I was like, I just gave that guy a high five at the end, and I was super happy, and it was like, it's done.
I want to talk about that moment of euphoria at the end. Chris,
Yeah.
I'll start with you, then I'll
Yeah.
go back to you,
Yeah.
Charlie. So first off, congratulations on running 45 minutes mile loop
I
after
think it was 46.
46-minute loop after all that. I did 72 and I was proud of that. I busted hard for that. Simo, you did what, 84 or something?
Yeah, I think I had like four or 5 minutes to spare.
I think it was 84.
Yeah,
No, you think you
okay.
had 6 minutes. I
Yeah.
think it was one of your PBs for your last
Oh, it might have been
6
yeah.
or 7.
Which is
PB for the last
half day.
4 loops.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of you. This is just so impressive. But how did you feel after you finished?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys saw, it was just I was so relieved. I think I didn't even have the energy to look at anybody. I didn't have the energy. There's a bunch of people cheering me on, and I just had my head down, and I went through the finish line. I think I walked over to the to our pit area. I think I threw my water bottle about 100 feet, and I just dropped on the floor and was just in complete emotion, just like crying like a baby.
Yeah.
It was.
We all
It was.
witnessed it.
It
Yeah,
was.
Simo was on all 4 hands and knees and just bawled into the grass for a good minute there.
Yeah, it was just the weirdest feeling, something I couldn't control, and it wasn't tears of joy. It was,
Can't believe I'm done this.
yeah, and I think there was a lot going
Tears
on.
of
There was
relief?
Yeah.
tears of relief. There was a lot going on there, and I think tears of gratefulness, to be honest, too, because I did feel grateful for this experience. Like that was going on through my head. Like I didn't know like I still don't know how to thank you guys for this whole experience, and like it's just like that whole thing. These guys being around, you're getting to know your parents, like just the whole thing, and you know, my all the group messages that I had like from my friends and family, and like I just like this, and then the pain relief, like now I know I can just like sleep and relax. Like just all of it was just like it's over, and it just
You
kind of
went
came.
from-
It just kind of came all at once.
You went from really not running like 2-3 years ago to like doing a half, to doing a marathon, to doing a second marathon, to doing a half Ironman, to jump into like a 100-miler is. So when you say I don't know how to thank you, man, I've had so much joy. I did not know this guy. I
From the
met
Birds
you
Hill
Birds Hill Triathlon. Like that's
Yeah.
4 months ago, 5
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah,
And now I feel like I don't know if I don't know who I'd be closer with, like in the run, like in
we've been through a lot.
Well, you guys
We've-
spent 24 hours together.
yeah,
Yeah.
like 24 hours together, like
Yeah.
emotion by emotion. And sometimes I look at you like, I don't know if I could say this, but I'm just gonna share, and it'd be like a fear or whatever. And you were like, yeah, I'm feeling it too. And it was just being raw and being
Yeah.
like just open about how we were feeling the whole time. Anyway,
Yeah,
so that brings me
therapeutic.
a lot of joy to see that you got here,
Yeah.
and I had a little tiny piece of it, and that I said, hey, you want to come to this?
Yeah,
And you were like, I'm in. That brings me so much joy. Like I'm just so happy that you came.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. It's it's like I just don't know how to put it all into words. It's
a little early,
it's gonna
perhaps,
take
yeah?
some time. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. We might get you on the podcast again to talk about like the next 100 miler or whatever, the next backyard.
The next 100 miler that we're 100% not doing, but maybe.
Well, even this morning, I was like, my God, like I slept pretty good and slept pretty good. Sleep score was 41. It's the worst score I've had in months and months and months. And yet I was out at 8 o'clock and I was up at 8. I slept 12 hours. I don't know how I had such a terrible sleep score, but I guess my body was, and even this morning I was like, okay, one and done. Never, ever, ever doing that again. But right now, I watched a documentary of that Naiad swimmer on the plane, and I just broke down in tears at the end. This 60-year-old woman who swam from Florida to Cuba.
I've got to watch this.
Oh my God. And then I was like, yeah, Rob, don't be a quitter. And I was like, it's hard, but doing hard things, you know. And I was like starting to talk myself into another one on the plane.
Oh.
Anyways, I had decided and said I was never, ever, ever doing one again 1,000 times. But I mean, now, I don't know, there's a 1% chance, maybe a 3% chance that I sign up for one in the next week. No, that I do another one at some point. I don't know. It's not off the board.
So I definitely had told myself, especially early in the race, I told myself I'm never ever doing this. And like by the end of the race, I was like, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. Like,
Yeah, you are pretty good at
I
this.
think I want to do it again.
Like I thought, yeah, you are very good at this. It's your first one ever. You medaled, first one ever. And for me, the difference between, I've told the story about Nice when I told myself that I was quitting Ironman because it was so hard, and yet I knew that I would come out of it and try to convince myself to do another one. And I'd say, well, remember how you feel right now. I didn't even have that feeling this time because I knew I would never do one again. And I knew I wouldn't try to convince myself to do one again. So I didn't have to worry about that because I was so sure that I was never going to do one again. So I didn't even bother.
You signed up for some already, I thought.
No backyards.
No backyards. Yeah.
No,
ultras. Yeah.
I signed up for 2 ultras, but I mean, ultras, like a 50K is...
Yeah.
This is next level.
How many times have we done 50K in the last 2 months? Like,
Yeah, I've done it
quite a few.
couple times. Yeah.
So, I mean, worst case, I'll just take it slow if I'm not 100%, but it's in a month already, so, or less than a month. But anyways, Charlie, how did you feel at the finish line?
There was this intense relief, and then like it was weird because like there was kind of this, like usually I'm really that guy that finished second. Usually I'm really competitive with this guy. I just like gave him a big high five because
You were happy for him.
I was happy for him because we had gone through the same thing, and he was happy for me, and
It is different.
yeah, and yeah, it was just very emotional, and I just sat in my chair and like
Took a nap while we came in.
I was in my chair for a while. But it was
TJ and I were debating the whole like a little bit. I'm like, do you think they're done yet? Yeah, it's probably done. I better get moving here.
yeah, no, it's just a great feeling at the end. Yeah. How about you guys? How about
Yeah,
you?
so I was passing a few people early on in the, like not early on, but like mile 3 and 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I guess they thought they went out too fast or whatever. So I passed a few. I think I finished 9th. I think there were 18 in the last loop. Is that right? 17? 18? So
I think there was 18.
18. So I was exactly in the first.
top 10 finishes.
Yeah, so I was in the middle of the pack, let's say.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm not, whatever. It's okay. But this guy passed me with like half a mile left, and I heard him coming, and like I saw him, and I'm like, normally, like if someone's passing me, I'm losing my mind, right? Like to not let him pass me.
Yeah.
I was just so happy for this random guy that I didn't know who he was.
Have at her.
Yeah, it's yours, buddy. Like so happy for you, man. And I felt the same thing as you. You were like just so happy for this random guy you don't even know.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
he feeling the same thing I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also got passed probably in the last 400 meters.
Meh.
Have it.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way, I'm like at first I was, why did I push the last? But Claude put it in perspective. Well, you got a top 10 out of it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I did got a top 10 out of it. So that's okay. Is it a joke that you guys are maybe gonna do another one, or
I
'cause-
don't know.
I want to know. Here's
I feel like I was not expecting to do this well
yeah.
and to feel that good at the end. That I was like, I maybe want to try to do like to compete, like try to win a backyard, you know. But
Yeah,
if
I
the-
mean, if you're feeling that good then, you could have probably done another. How many other loops?
I have no.
When you're talking,
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm out of
Yeah,
it.
I have no clue. Like I think the night would have been hard, but at that point, and maybe it was because I was excited for the race that probably helped. You know, I felt like I could for sure do a few more. Like yeah,
I feel like one, I can't believe you beat me, but clearly you're better at this than I am. So I want to one thing I'm thinking is it maybe because he napped? Like did that maybe give him the edge? So I feel like trying one just to nap to see if it helps me to do a little bit better. I feel like trying one just to try to nap,
yeah.
just to see if I feel better. Because I hit the wall hard and I couldn't move thereafter. That night is tough. The first night is tough. So I'm kind of thinking about that. Maybe I would try one and try napping. It's all I'm thinking of.
If I can guarantee that my feet wouldn't be that sore, then it would be.
But remember when you
in
did your first
consideration.
ever marathon and you thought, wow, like this is the hardest thing ever. I'm never doing this. Then you do your first Ironman. It is the hardest thing ever. And then, anyways, on and on. Like I'm sure Phil Gore, when he did his first 100-miler, was like, I'm never doing this again, right? Probably.
Yeah, but he said he also felt like he was pretty good at it. So yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, you would say that too. I would say that too.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good at it, right?
Yeah.
Like those guys did
No,
26
he
in.
must have. He suffered a lot. I saw that documentary that he
Yeah.
was in.
Would you do 29 yards or something on his first
No,
one?
he did 39.
39. Okay. That's comparable to what you might have done on your first. Like you could have done another 10.
I think I could have probably done another at least 20 miles, like maybe another.
Like
3
I think I
loops.
could have. If had the race been like 6 more loops down the line, I think I would have got there.
Yeah.
And that's another 9 hours. That's 30 some hours.
Yeah.
So like, that puts us in the same kind of realm.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that maybe this is just like, take a second, Rob. These things are tough. See if you actually enjoyed it, and let the pain and all that, and then reevaluate.
Yeah.
Lessons learned? Either one of you.
Well, to me, the just get through the night, obviously, but
The nights are tough.
But to me, it was like when you fall asleep, when you start falling asleep, like it's okay to like to me just run a bit.
See, I didn't do that, and I thought you were crazy. I thought you were making a mistake. I would tell someone, I think he's making a mistake. He's tiring himself out for no reason, just to stay awake. But I didn't.
But I was only running like 1 or 2 minutes at a time, and yeah, I think it worked out.
What do you think about? So I want to just address this. So I did 100K this summer, and I thought it was relatively easy. And I did it I just ran it. I just started and I ran it to the city. I stopped at the aid stations for a minute or two. I drank some water. I ate. And I just kept going. And I could have for sure kept going at the end. It was hard, but it wasn't like. And yet here I did a backyard and I had a hard time. So do you think that is because the night? Do you think it's because the travel? Do you think it's because, I don't know. Do you think it's because I ran? Do you think the intervals are tough on the body? Do you think that's possible?
I think maybe.
Maybe we should just run
I think
and
you were
break?
Honestly, I think you were running too slow.
Too slow.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously we finished, so something worked.
No, you guys did 100.
But could we have done something differently? Maybe less steps, right? If you're running faster, it's just overall less steps.
That's a good point. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't the
Substantially.
cardio, right? It was,
Yeah.
well, who knows why you want to quit. It's tough to explain the I want to quit feeling, right? It's not because your heart rate
It's just
can't do
because
it.
it's pain.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe the whole intervals wasn't a good. Maybe if I would have just ran, break, maybe that would have been better. And maybe do a couple interval loops here and there.
Yeah, I think mixing it up probably.
Because this was way, way, way harder than my 100K, and yet it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been harder.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't have been.
Like the first 100K, if you just compare them.
Yeah.
I
We
was
also did it through the night.
through the night for sure.
So, because
But,
most of the first most of the first 100K was like there was 2 loops at the beginning.
Yeah, and the rest was the whole night.
Yeah, and then the rest was all.
Yeah, and I guess when I did my 100K, I was completely by myself. Right, we had all the support here, so I'm a little worried that not worried, concerned. I wish I would have done better. I wish I would have done better. But I guess you just learn from this, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I feel like I left something out there, and I feel like I got to go try another one.
I think for you also, like on it, like I think that just having a few extra minutes as a break
Well,
to
yeah.
be able to make sure that you do everything you need to do.
It's the same argument. If I just run, then I'm not gonna have to worry about the extra minutes. I'm gonna have 20 minutes or whatever. Right?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't run the whole thing, but you could, because then that's gonna kill you too. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe you could be right.
Simo, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, nothing more to add than what you guys said. Like, I'm on the same page.
Okay. Overall, anything else you guys want to add? It's probably been a long episode. I haven't been timing this, but I think we could probably talk about this forever. So we do have a plane to catch somewhat shortly. Do you have any, this race, anything else you want to say? I mean, I'll just say this. What a joy it was to have you on this trip and have you come and just fit right in. And because it would have been way different, just the two of us.
Yeah, I don't know how.
It would have not worked, I think.
How would that have happened?
Well, you would have been in front of me the same way, and I would have been.
You would have been alone.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Anyways, I was very thankful to have you.
Well, I was very thankful to have you guys too, and thankful for the friendship. And yeah, I just still can't.
You did it. 100 miles.
Yeah.
And for you, Charlie.
So wait, look, can we go back to how did Simo?
You told a story the other day. Do you want to tell it again?
How did Simo decide to do this thing?
Tell the story. Treehern.
Treehern. We were on our way out to Treehern, and you guys were talking about this race, and you turned around. We were in your van. You turned around and said, "Simo, you're coming, right?" And
I do stuff like that all the time, like just to test people. Like,
yeah, and I was like, I would like to, but like I didn't want to commit to it. And on the run, the entire run, I was thinking I need to do this because I kind of was thinking about it before. I just didn't know what it looked like. I'm like, this is the opportunity. This is it right here. And then I had a million things going on in my head, reasons why not to do it. But I had more reasons to do it. And then I think you asked me again on the way home. I said, yeah, I'd like to do it. And then 2 days later, you're like, get your bib. And then I think within 3 minutes, I
just wanted to
texted you a
make
picture of my bib.
yeah.
And how did I do it? I don't even remember.
So I signed up for it, and then I texted you. I said, I'm doing this. Sign up for it. And then you signed up for it.
Yeah, I think it didn't take much.
Because I was talking about it for a while before.
I think you asked him on the pod.
Okay.
think you asked
That's where
him,
we
"You
do
wanna
most
come?"
of our work on the podcast.
And then you're like, yeah, I'll do that. You didn't even hesitate.
yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'll go.
Yeah. I guess I kind of had that as in the back of my mind as something I wanted to do at some point.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I'm going to do this, this is probably one of the best formats to try to do it in.
Yeah. It is, though, for sure, right? If you're going to do a 100 miler, it's
To start, yeah.
easier way to do it.
That's the
arguably.
easiest 100 miler you're going to get.
And I remember when you were like, I'm in. And I was like, this guy's going to just come with us and do a 100 miler? I remember thinking like, wow, I was so blown away by your balls. So I was like, let's go. So you signed up. And I knew I had space in the Airbnb. I don't know if I'd booked those guys already. I forget.
I'm not sure. I kind of asked you offer. I'm like, you've got a room. You're like, I'm like, do you have a room? And you're like, we'll figure it out. I was like, oh, I'm like, I hope I'm not intruding too much.
No.
I hope you didn't ask me thinking that I was like, I was just gonna say no, but like,
no,
and I know you didn't do that.
I honestly was kind of like, I do this to people all the time. Like I ask, you're gonna run a half with me tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like I do that all the time to people.
Yeah.
Like, and just they have to tell me no, right?
Yeah.
To force them to, hey, we're doing a jog tomorrow. You want to come? Like tomorrow, 5 miles, like at the office or whatever. And people have to say no. Yeah. And then you didn't say no. So I was like, okay. I push running on people, right? That's what I do. I'm a run pusher.
Yeah.
So when you were like, I'm in, I was like, okay, well, if this guy actually wants to come run 100 miles and he's going to commit to it.
I was going to say yes, though.
Simo, I did not think you were going to say yes to come run 100 miles 2 months after running your first marathon, 3 months after running your first marathon. So I thought there was a chance, but I didn't think, because like I asked all these guys to do it, and none of them did it, right? I mean, you're more of a crazy person like us than those guys, but so yeah, I was glad to have you on here. And Charlie, I guess, wow, what a race!
Thanks. Yeah.
It's about as good as it gets for a first backyard.
I think there's some gratification there, like maybe that tells us like that, you know, when you're thinking, why am I doing this? And then, you know, now that we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, and Tyson made a good point this morning, eh? Were you guys there when Tyson was talking about like 150 people or whatever in the race, only 18 finishers, and we were 100% out of, we were 3, and all 3 of us finished.
Yeah.
Like 1 out of 10 finished the rest of the field, right?
Yeah.
14 out of, like they had 1 out of 10 the rest of the field. We had 100% at us.
Yeah.
So it's pretty impressive. He was like, this is unbelievable. So, you know, as shitty as it feels to have been crushed by my brother, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
As good as it feels to have beaten my brother.
That's it. There's no other sentence.
Well, somebody had to win.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Oh, but I'm getting less and less wins against him now. It's like
Yeah.
like now, yeah. Anyways, I thought I'd have this on him for sure, but I clearly don't. So I guess I'll work on that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Anything else? Okay, and if ever there was a lesson to be learned here, it was definitely more miles, less pace, right? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.